Well, listen, this is an interesting panel. It's the first run of a panel called From Dungeons to Dragons. And I got this idea for this panel because there's a movie coming out. And you see I strategically swiped their logo and stuff. Because I have been a Dungeons and Dragons fan, participant, gamer since I was in the 4th grade. It was my entry into the nerd space, you know, and I have it was a special place in my heart for it. And I could not, for the life of me, understand why something that is so well loved, so well known, a world that was so well crafted, you know, molded after, you know, the Tolkien world, failed so miserably every time it was put on the screen, right? Small screen, big screen, you name it, failure, flop, bam, you know, and started the failure came from the fandom. It wasn't like all the fans loved it and then the rest of the Muggle world didn't get it. It was that we were the ones sitting around with our arms folded talking about, really? And mad that they didn't call us. Like, that's how personal we took it. I can't believe Paramount didn't call me. I could have told them, right? So I decided to assemble a couple of friends who have backgrounds in gaming and in the nerd space to come and have this discussion, which is going to be somewhat of a free-for-all. There's going to be a certain amount of structure to this, but we really, I mean, this is going to be a bitch session. So feel free to wave your hands and punch sky if you want, because that's kind of what we're here to do. And it's a great way to kick off MAGFest. Just some anger, some outrage, right? You know, get it out of our system so that, you know, when you're eating that dusty biscuit from the cafeteria, you won't feel like you haven't been heard, right? So myself, my name is Hilton George. I am the founder and CEO of BlurredCon, the Black Nerd Convention that is held every summer right across the water over at the Hyatt Crystal City. And we're running on our 7th year coming up this summer. And I have worked with so many people from so many different fandoms and have expanded my network of nerd friends and blurred friends that I wanted to you know, make sure that we get an opportunity to gather and be a part of any of these discussions with some of our partner conventions. To my right is Montel Blurdekorn Williams. How you doing, good sir?
Thank you, please. I appreciate that.
Now, you are going to very, very quickly understand how outclassed I am in my RPG knowledge compared to Montel. He works with, what's the gaming space? What is it called?
I work at Atlantis.
Atlantis, I mean, listen, Atlantic Games.
Atlantis Games and Comics, yes.
Atlantis Games and Comics. They do everything, card games, everything. He actually runs the gaming room, tabletop, RPG for BlurredCon, and it's an around-the-clock 3-day event, and he is always there. He's always up. He is a fountain of knowledge. So I said, okay, I can get up here and complain, but I'm sure he's got some vintage, just some excellent complaining I want to hear, you know.
I'm still trying to get him to pay for a sleeping bag in the room because I never get to leave. I'm still waiting on that stipend to come in.
Look, man, Team Medical Dragon, just faint. You can have that cot in there.
Wow.
Just your corset's too tight. Oh, and then you'll be there, hydrated and everything.
Fine. Right? I guess I don't have +1 to charisma, then I screwed that one up.
To my further right, your left, is Matthew. Now, Matthew is a graphic designer. He's got a background in gaming. He does all of our graphic design animations, and he has worked with cons across the board, including the cons here at the Gaylord. And he has got his own special viewpoint on some of these things. He's going to chime in. So he's the young buck. He's 6'7", 14 years old.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
You know, I said, we just got to get this guy. No skill on the basketball court, so this is what he's going to do.
You can't
what
get
he's
a bigger
doing right now.
That's why I make pretty pictures.
20 years, this is what he's going to be doing.
You can't get a bigger
It's a beautiful thing to see someone in their natural element.
At 6 foot something, you cannot get a bigger viewpoint than that. My
you can't.
God,
you can't.
Appreciate it. Yeah,
so what we're going to do, and I know this is going to be painful, so I really, really appreciate you guys being here and bearing with us, is I'm going to run down the trailers for the cartoon that so well represented us in our youth. To
Be wary, you're
only got
messing
beat up
with my
once a week instead
childhood.
of twice because
Okay.
it's, total mainstreaming of my fandom. And then we're gonna do the trailer for the 2000 movie, which was a huge hit, right? In Bangladesh. I think they did some good numbers in Bangladesh. We can check on that.
No.
It was the Betamax market just was through the roof over there.
It was in the island of Tonga. We talked about this.
Okay, you'll check on that. And then we're going to run the trailer for the latest one. And I really want to talk about that one because I'm wondering, okay, what are they going to do different that is going to make this one pop in ways that I already see head shaking? There's already people like, no. It's like, stop the panel now. We have come to a conclusion. We don't need to have this discussion. But we'll see. So let's run through these. And feel free. This is going to be like Mystery Science Theater 3000. So please feel free to commentate and complain and,
Yes. I have the head like a gumball machine, so that'll be me.
A Dungeons and Dragons ride!
Flashbacks just hearing it.
No.
Why did they start with a ride at an amusement park?
Wow!
It didn't exist.
Give me a break.
I don't like this!
Whoa! What's happening?
When they're going through the digestive tract.
Where are we?
Remember those?
Look out! Fear not, ranger,
Oh, I hated that bow so much.
barbarian, magician, thief,
A line of sight weapon that hits no
cavalier,
one.
and acrobat.
An acrobat, right? We all lined up to play that character.
Who was that?
That was Venger,
Him
the
that looked like
force
he should
of
belong in
evil.
front of a cereal box.
I am
He did.
Dungeon
He
Master.
had wings, but he was never flying. I never understood that.
Dungeons and Dragons.
If y'all didn't
I
have
al-
flashbacks from that, I'm really worried about y'all. Because
There's trauma counseling just around the corner. If anybody needs to
they
find
do
a
have
warm
mental
and
health
happy
panels
space.
this weekend.
They,
Mufasa.
okay, so I always said this, and I don't want to preempt the bitch session, but I always said we need to find out who the guy was that knocked his other antler off, his other horn off, because that guy can obviously beat Venger, right? Who did that? How did he do it?
Probably his mom.
If it were a module, I would ask that question. What happened to his other horn? I know he didn't come that way. Somebody knocked that
his
off.
mother has something to do with it. I told you one time too many to go out with them crazy
Maybe
dragons.
she's threw the chancla at him.
Come here,
and,
boy. Come here. Give me that horn. You don't deserve it.
No, oh my gosh.
Mom's the ultimate DM. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, gird your loins.
Tron level CGI. Dire Straits, money for nothing. Second generation.
Free and equal.
The child is not fit to govern an empire.
The forces of darkness. You can control dragons. With the dragon army at my command, I can crush the Empress.
This has got to be some twisted magic experiment gone seriously wrong.
He's like the first person they call.
Kingdom.
We get Jeremy Irons this is going to theater.
If you can obtain
And she's the princess from the Never-Ending Story. And I'm just like, why would you do this? And why is he in this?
Why is there a
Oh my God.
Why is there a Wayans Brothers in this movie?
They just threw him in.
Why is there a Wayans Brothers? Full stop.
Sauron's like, what the hell?
Look at those graphics.
It's like Tyrone Biggums from Chappelle Show.
Anything with the Wayans
You got any more than 20-sided dice, baby?
Finish the maze, you win the prize.
So fire isn't CGI? No. Well, okay.
They must complete this task alone.
You know, I love the way you track. Rocket Marina.
Mind you, 1 year later,
you get the girl?
Lord of
Break
the
it up,
Rings,
man. We gotta work
Fellowship
out
of the
some
Ring
plans.
came out, and it was so. I was so mad.
Everybody went to watch this and purge this from their mind.
Right.
It's like a Luden. You just
It's
need to. at the fall of Old
Dungeons
Valyria?
and Dragons.
We don't know how it ended. Those are the people responsible. Y'all screenshot that?
My day just got exorbitantly better. There we go. Film at 11.
When your film has an AOL page. That's I know, right?
I cannot with this.
What's your AIM? Right? Oh my gosh. And it's just like I said, I would have given this one more rope if there wasn't a Wayans brother in there.
Right. That's what I said.
And I'm just wondering what that boardroom meeting was about, where it's like, okay, we've got Jeremy Irons signed on to this project. This man is gold. We can do anything. Well, we got a Wayans over here. He's not doing anything. He's already contracted with the studio. He's got one more film on his contract. You know?
I literally saw the commercial and then saw Damon went,
Yep.
bruh, no.
Can't take it serious.
I can't.
Literally.
There's no way. What are you going to do?
He just ran by hair and makeup going on to the set. Like, I don't need an outfit.
That was his real hair.
Straight
Did you
from
see
In
that
Living
was real hair?
Color set, straight to, and it's like, no.
No
you've
lie.
insulted
One of my
family.
coworkers actually asked me if I saw the Dungeons and Dragons movie, and he says, "You know, Damon Wayans is in it." I said, "I should punch you in the face."
We spend a lot of time and energy talking about inclusion and representation, and this is like not it. Like this is not. Like I would have preferred like an all-white cast. Like I would have. Like no, I mean if we had to have.
I mean, you put an action guy in there like a Wesley or something like that would work better.
Exactly, but with a Wayans brother, I'd be like, let's leave it. Yeah, we'll diversify the next one. If we gotta have Damon Wayans in it, and just like I don't know.
Somehow Arnold Schwarzenegger to find his way in there somehow.
Oh, geez.
No, what you need to do
it now. We're
Sam
going to take
Jackson
the
has
whole
got a
castle and
history
retrieve
of
him
just
from you.
walking onto people's sets and saying, "Let me get in this motherfucking movie." Mace Windu didn't exist until he walked onto the set and told George Lucas, "Can I get in?" And George Lucas was like, "Shit, all right, hold on, let me get in with the writers." That's how he got into Star Wars.
And now the comic book is one of the most expensive ones on the market now.
So I'm like, where was Sam Jackson? He makes like 17 movies a year. He couldn't.
I think Sam has a standard, okay? Sam had a standard.
He was getting eaten by a shark. That's a good catch. There you go. Wow.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And snakes on a plane. That's
my
That's a whole panel. That's a whole panel.
He's probably
Snakes
the
on a
only
plane.
one with a motherfucker clause. I'm telling you.
Right.
He's got to.
He's got to have it. You got to have a motherfucker clause in the contract.
I think he
to do it.
copywrote it. He's got it patent somewhere.
Depends on how you spell it,
He's making money. Yeah.
PH.
making money
It's
off
a
of it
PH.
somehow.
If it's a Q in there, okay, he's probably got it.
So, okay. All right. So everybody's in a warm, happy space. So we've got the new trailer, right? This is a movie coming out in March from Paramount. And maybe they did something different. You know, I like the cast. Have to admit.
I'm glad
I like the
didn't
look.
eat.
I like the special effects look okay, right? But, you know, you guys tell me if you haven't seen it. You know, get ready to learn.
Here's the thing. We're a team of thieves. And when you do this, you're bound to make enemies. Sometimes those enemies come looking for revenge. Truth be told, we helped the wrong person steal the wrong thing. We didn't mean to unleash the greatest evil the world has ever known. But we're gonna fix it.
So how do we pull that off? Figure it out over a drink?
Probably best.
You need
To give us a fighting chance, we're gonna need strength. You got this, right?
I know you don't.
We also need courage, magic, and you. What is that again? It's an owl bear.
Let's go!
Be warned. There is evil here.
I'm glad he's on our side.
This one's dangerous. But whatever happens, we'll be ready.
What is it exactly that you bring to this?
I'm a planner. I make plans.
You've already made the plan, so
If the existing plan fails, I make a new plan.
so you make plans that fail.
No,
He also plays the lute.
not relevant.
So we can agree that the CGI was better, right?
No. You missed
this-
the briefing.
please,
This is a bitch session. Please feel free.
Why it looks like everybody in this movie like decided to take it seriously, decided to act, and then Chris Pine is like playing himself.
Chris Pine always plays himself. That's the if we don't have that, what are we even doing here?
Wonder Woman.
That's the best job.
We have Wonder Woman. That's what we have.
No, you have Wonder Woman.
No,
we don't have.
You can
Wonder
keep that.
I was very upset. I really didn't like him in that casting. What I did like about this, or at least what gives me hope, is that it kind of harkens back to the Legend of Vox Machina. You saw some of the characters, you saw some of the sequences, and I'm thinking, did they learn something from the only on-screen representation of Dungeons and Dragons that actually worked, right? You know, I mean, could we take hope in that?
Do we have any critters in the room? You can raise your hand because I'm a critter too. Let's go. Okay. All right. There we go.
So maybe there is something to be said with that. What do you think?
There is definitely some hope. When I started playing Dungeons and Dragons years ago, the one thing that I really enjoyed was the adventure aspect, being able to place myself in the adventure, to be the character that I chose, and to be able to go forth, roll the dice, make the decisions, things like that. That 2000 movie, I couldn't purge it fast enough from my brain. I lied to you not. I tried everything, Clorox, ex-wives, I tried it all. It didn't work.
Mushrooms will do it.
But I feel like it's not so much representation as being as loyal and respectful to the property itself than anything else, because the key thing in Dungeons and Dragons is storytelling. You're part of the story. And you don't want to feel like you're being pandered to because, oh, we're just going to put these acrobatic warrior type people in here and they're going to go on the a Wayans brother. What the hell? What the hell did he do?
I think the box office taught him a lesson there. You know, I'm noted that the Fellowship of the Ring came out like the next year, right? And even though it wasn't branded as a D&D movie, I mean, it's the same lore, it's kind of that same foundation, and you kind of saw what doing it right looked like from there forward, right?
But like you said, because they didn't call it a Dungeons and Dragons movie. Now, if you say Dungeons and Dragons, you already have an image in your mind of what the lore and the world is like. So you already come into it preconceived. All right, I play Dungeons and Dragons. I know what I'm going to come into, or at least I hope. And then you walk out of there ready to kill the next person that you see.
So he and I had this conversation that I had to stop because I was like, we have to save this conversation for the panel. Because we were talking about...
He was a tired old man. He didn't want to sleep past
No, I didn't want to preempt the conversation because we were talking about how well D&D was represented in Stranger Things.
Yes.
Right? Because it was an
pure.
overarching, view, and we saw ourselves in the characters and how they saw what for them was a real live crisis that wasn't D&D. But because they're kids and because that was the lens through which they saw the world, or this world, it kind of carried through as a theme, and we got to see the lives of the D&D kids. If we were anyone here who was a D&D kid, it kind of resonated with us.
We saw
being
ourselves
in the basement with a bunch of gadgets and toys and dumb stuff, being yelled at by parents to get out of the house or go get some sunlight, touch grass, etc., etc.
All
of
of that
those things.
before the lights,
and
before the street lights.
So what we were talking about was the fact that the show, if it didn't have that element of it, wouldn't have resonated with as many folks because we got to live that adventure through the lives of these Dungeons and Dragons nerds that we were in a real world for them crisis.
Right.
And so how do you take a Dungeons and Dragons world crisis and then carry us into the story in the same way without having like a small, quarter of the screen where people are like rolling, 10-sided die before something happens on the screen, or you do like a never-ending story where you kind of come in and out of the story,
like
Princess Bride type thing. Yeah.
Yeah, like Baldur's Gate. When you play Baldur's Gate, before you make a move, you roll the D20 to see what actions you can take. To keep it interactive and to keep it relatable is always the most important thing, because if you're playing for the first time, you have no idea what's going on. But as you see the cohesion of the table, and you see everybody playing, and you see the group and what it's doing, and when I saw Stranger Things, they were playing Dungeons and Dragons, I felt like I was at that table, and I was a part of that adventure as they were rolling their die and they're rolling their saves and everything, and I felt like that is the core of being able to relate to this community. As a whole, you have to be able to make it relatable and not pander to just any old body, because you want to bring new people in. So make it relatable. And a lot of people who watch Stranger Things had never seen Dungeons and Dragons before. At the store, I have seen an influx of new people that said, I've never played before, but I want to play for the first time. And it's coming in and it's great. But that's because it was relatable. The movies take away from that. You're in the adventure, but you really don't feel like you're a part of it. You're more like you're just watching it happen, and you're just an observer.
Church.
Yeah.
I mean, that also is true. I mean, talking of lore, it's hard to pinpoint a lore in a way, because Greyhawk is not heavily brought in much. Perhaps Realms has become, but each GM usually runs their own story.
Yeah.
And I guess that's one advantage on our season, that they're trying to focus on one of the big stories of FR and Vecna. But yeah.
Now, have they said that this movie is just the movie, or is it going to be? Are we going to have like the actual human element? Are there going to be like a group of friends playing this game, and the movie is the game?
It's going to be a straight movie. It's going to be a straight movie.
Yeah, so the question, I'm being told to repeat the question because the mic won't pack up. The question is, are there going to be representations of gameplay overlaid with this live action CGI? Or is it just going to throw us into that world and kind of throw these little Easter eggs and little nods to us about, there's a dragon and there's a, an owl bear and all that sort of stuff?
Nope, you take actors
and if not, then we're running into the problem that it's the same formula of all the other previous properties, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that I guess one of the things I love about the Dungeons and Dragons community, ironically, is its stoicism. It does kind of, I mean, it's basically the same game from 30 years ago with different modules and, some updates, but it's basically the same game. There is no desire to evolve the game beyond the game. If you're going to do that, make another game, and that's what's happening, right? So the question is, like, how do you take a property like this, make it relatable to the people who know it? Because this is the argument. I've actually made this argument to studios. When you're talking about promoting, if you're talking about building in the fandom, start and finish with the fandom. I love seeing the fact that they've got consultants, on set who know something about the subject matter that whatever the movie is about. And so it's not just bouncing around in Michael Bay's head as to what is going to happen or not happen, right? So why not do the same thing with something like this? Have somebody on set who's from TSR, who, maybe has been with it a long time. Even a Montel, somebody go, that doesn't work. Like, that's not going to, no, we got to do this, right? And so then, when you talk about the promotion and marketing, getting the fandom to be the first ones to approve it. Because even though we're all nerds here, we have Muggle friends and family, right? We get a vote as to where the minivan is going to go and what movie we're all going to see when we all get in the car and go see a movie, right? And we make the most noise if we're going to see something that we don't want to see. Like, we really should go see, So if we get activated, there's 5, 10, 15 people around us who might not have otherwise taken an interest in this, because I've heard people say it. Like, I'm not really into that, but my cousin is really, he took me to see X, or he introduced me to this game or this anime or this property,
right?
And that's how it expands out. And without that foundation, I don't know that the Muggle world is going to just wrap themselves around this movie.
It's a challenge for sure. If you eliminate the player aspect to any movie, any production, you're missing the main element of that production. Dungeons and Dragons is a player-based game. Everybody who's played made characters, sat at a table, were asked questions of what you want to do, where you want to go, or roll a D20. And it's like, how do you want to do it? Those are principal parts of it. The challenge is always going to be making it as interactive or as relatable in the movie. And what's funny is when we had that conversation, I thought about the movie and I said, what if they had a arc in the movie somehow where they got this group of kids? And I started laughing when I thought of this. I'm like, wow, how many times have we seen this trope play out? But they have a group of kids and they're sitting at a table and they've got dice and they somehow have got these magical character sheets of the group that they're a part of. And the kids are leading the adventurers through the dungeon or through the castle to get to the adversary.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Just like
it is, yeah. I was thinking Jumanji, Tron. You kind of have that player aspect to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how you maybe write that over, but
well,
indeed,
I mean,
indeed.
So the question was about having young kids being part of the storytelling because of real live play or something that makes it digestible, relatable to who's playing the game now, and who do we choose to do that? Is it experienced players who are doing an advanced module, or is it intro level, depending on where they want to enter? I don't know, right? My question,
everything is intro level.
But my question is, and continues to be, what did Vox Machina get right that the other properties got wrong? Because I was on a ride watching that. Now, there was no players, there was no dice, there was no fourth wall breaking to
Vox Machina is that it has something to base off of.
Yes.
Critical Role.
He beat me to it. He beat me to it.
They pitched it to Amazon, didn't they?
Yes.
I mean, they're steeped in it, so I imagine that they wrote it quite well.
When they started with Geek and Sundry doing Vox Machina, and that's when I first heard about Critical Role, and I fell in love with it because, like you said, they've already laid out everything. They've already laid out the stories and the characters and the lore, and the fandom has built because of that. So when the anime series came out, these characters have already been created. They've already gone through adventures. They're relatable. People who are a part of Critical Role know them, and those who don't, seen it and went back to look at the shows on YouTube and Twitch and were like, wow, they're really fleshed out. This is incredible.
I think you're right. I think that's actually one of the major contrasts that we can see between what we see in the Amazon Prime show and what we can see with the Dungeons and Dragons films. Instead of trying, like, they already have, number one, they already have a huge following from what I understand. They can go to Amazon and say, excuse me, I have 1 million, 2 million followers on YouTube, and all this merch that I sell, and we have like already a capitalist machine. It's already working. Do you want us to like give us some of your Amazon Web Services? Just like put this up and like give us some animators.
Give us your stuff. The idea of having an established fandom being the foundation of the property as it goes into the mainstream is kind of what I was talking about as what they should be doing. Because I myself, my nephew is 19 years old. He wouldn't watch the animated series because he was so attached to watching, Critical Role on YouTube and on Twitch. And he was so familiar with that gameplay that he felt like there was no way that the animated series could enhance his experience. And almost had to, just jawbone him into sit down and watch this because he was such a purist. But he, again, a 19-year-old, has 2 parents. He's got 6 cousins. He's got 3 uncles and an aunt. And he dragged
partridge
everybody
in a
kicking and
pear
screaming who, isn't interested in animated series at all into watching this. And that's the effect that I'm talking about. You have the fandom activated first because you started there from the ground up. They get excited about it, and then they tell everybody else to, that it's there. Because there were some people I know who watched it and didn't know, just like you were saying, about Critical Role, and went from the Prime show to the gameplay show, and were indoctrinated, if you will, into the fandom, in that way. And now everybody I know is getting some type of, Dungeons and Dragons related,
exposure.
Presents for Christmas is what I was thinking. The books and wands and modules and costumes and all that stuff.
We're not even going to talk about Christmas holiday season. My gosh, at my store we sell everything Dungeons and Dragons you think of. We're also an official Critical Role store, and I had grandparents coming in, not sure what they were asking for. My grandson is into their Dragons and Dungeons, and I'd like to get him something.
It's the same old person keeps coming to your store. It's the same voice. How does that keep happening?
Because it's the same lady. She's got 17 grandkids. I don't understand. And they come with an enthusiasm because they know that their grandkids like it or whomever. And when we recommended to them, now what's funny is one lady did do that. Her grandson wanted to be a DM. He came in, she bought all the stuff for him. He came into the store a few days later and said, my grandmother got me this and I want to play. Who's your grandmother? And I went, are you? He said, yeah. I said, oh, okay, I know you're talking about. So just going upstairs. And he brought his friends with him. So it was like a group of 10 kids at the table trying to figure this out. And it was one of the coolest things in the world. It was chaotic, but it was cool.
I think that there is a space for RPG gameplay with all kids. I was introduced to Dungeons and Dragons in 4th grade, and it was an after-school program, and I could either have learned how to make cinnamon toast in the, back when they had home ec in elementary school, I was either going to learn how to make cinnamon toast or some other dish, or I could sit in a circle of kids and they were like, you want to play? And I said, I'd never played, didn't have a character sheet, and they were like, no problem, come on, sit down, we'll write you up somebody. And I was hooked ever since.
That's a flag.
And I was the craziest nerd guy you ever want to meet in the 4th grade. I want to tell you a story. There was a convention at North Carolina State University called, oh my God, what was it called?
I don't know. You tell us.
Oh, shush.
I'm still waiting on his answer.
It was a Dungeons and Dragons convention. I forgot the name. I'm just having a brain fart. And I was like 12. So I couldn't go. It was an overnight lock-in on campus for students. And one of my nerd friends, and this is what nerds do, we take our lives into our own hands with no sense of self-preservation, actually found, I don't know how you do this at 12, found the map to the sewer system at North Carolina State University.
What?
And mapped out how to go through the sewer system and come up in the building. Because once you're in the building, everyone would assume you're supposed to be there. It's not tight security. It was, it's the 80s.
He was a Ninja Turtle.
And five of us went on Hillsborough Street, pulled up a manhole cover in the middle of the night, hopped into, with flashlights, these... it wasn't like a sewer where there's like stuff, but it was like those little ducts where the power stuff goes through and all. So, it actually looked like a dungeon. And careened our way, and then just dark, we don't know it, and just popped up the next manhole cover and ended up in the building. Right. Now, this is not something that I would do as an adult for $1 billion. You're thinking of rats and snakes and infectious diseases and nails and hobos and all kinds of stuff that could kill you. Like, it's all there, right? It hadn't come out yet, so we weren't worried about Pennywise. But that is how dedicated we were to getting into this damn thing and playing with college students. It was the craziest thing that we really wanted. Oh my God, we wanted to do it so much. And we get in the building, we spend the night in this administration building with a bunch of college students watching Blade Runner and getting our Hummels painted and playing different modules and all this kind of stuff. And that was how the level of fandom was for me.
So you had your own group of Goonies?
I went to who?
The Goonies?
Yeah, it was a Goonies adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's only now that I look back in horror at how close I came to disappearing and being like one of those kids that we never knew what happened to.
It's one of those things where somebody flushed.
Remains were found underneath North Carolina State University after they mowed down some building or whatever.
I wonder who the chunk was of the group. I'm really curious.
Oh, no, we had a chunk. His name was Clark.
Wow.
That's funny.
It starts with a C, too.
But you survived.
Scary.
You survived from getting flushed, because that was the thing. You get flushed.
No, we didn't get flushed. It wasn't like a sewer itself. It was like
okay.
where they had the electrical wire and stuff, But that's, for some reason, we thought that was okay.
Wow.
Like, that was acceptable risk to go play Dungeons and Dragons with big kids.
I wonder what happened if you did that today.
You would die.
Yeah. Yeah.
No offense to the next generation, but y'all not made of the same stuff as us.
No.
Like, someone's going to stub their toe and get sepsis and die instantly.
Shoot.
I would say this about the movie. I will give it a shot.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna walk into it without any preconceived notions because, like I said, I've been playing. Yes, sir.
That's exactly what I think they're hoping to do.
Yeah.
He said they're banking on your goodwill, sir,
giving it a shot
and your hope.
That's kind of what I think the difference is between you have the Vox Machina where it's fan upward content, and Paramount is like, listen, COVID happened, Dungeons and Dragons is seeing this huge surge of people, let's ride this wave, okay?
Yeah.
We just throw some money at it, we gotta get some star power, Chris Pine, let's just get Chris Pine in here, okay, cool, and then we'll throw some other actors you haven't heard of, but they're cheap enough, and then we'll use the IP, we'll get the owlbear in there, which is pretty cool actually, let's do that. And then the real fans will see the owlbear and be like, I wanna see an owlbear. And then they'll go and they'll see it, they'll spend the money to do that. But I think that's the difference between the top down, where it's like executives in a boardroom going, let's ride this wave, they'll pay money to come see our movie, versus, like you said, like that fan-focused content. Well,
Yeah, I think you're 100% right.
Yeah.
If I was in that boardroom, I'd be like, I think we can at least get them to try it.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
the idea that the bottom up, I think is the way marketing should go. I think there is more being invested in the community. There's more power in the hands of individuals in the community. You have the power, or the potential is a better way to put it, to make your own channel and express yourself in ways that can attract thousands and thousands of followers. You can become a media hub with the right technology and the right hook and the right production, right? And it's never been like that in history. We were all subject to external lights, and we were the moths trying to figure out which lamp we're going to go to. And now we're all kind of, we got a photographer and graphic designer here. We got a podcaster and streamer here. I run a convention. Everybody here has got a certain amount of brand, and collectively, we can coalesce around a lot of things, positive or negative, right? And that power should be something I think that studios should look at, because the amount of money, let's use an extreme example of promo that did not end up making money, right? Let's look at Black Adam. $100,000, $100 million of budget went into promoting that movie, flying The Rock all over the country and showing up at Times Square and being on all these shows, bringing the whole cast out, all of that stuff, and it did not get the groundswell from the community. And there was a huge community for the property in the abstract. We've been excited for 7 years about Black Adam and his being cast in it, but him doing the top down was not nearly as effective as you see some of these bottom-up fandoms who are like already have your 25% of your audience is already waiting at the theater with their tickets in their hand before you even put your first serious promo campaign out. Like that model, I think, should be the way all studios are going, because they're spending millions of dollars to promote nerd-centric properties, or properties that would appeal to nerds in one way or another, that are just blowing by the community and saying, hey, look at all these conventions, that are already built. You've got conventions like MAGFest that, aside from COVID, before COVID, was doing 30, 40,000 people. Why aren't you, promoting your properties in that space, right? Officially, right? Just trying to buy as much, screen time in the preview section of the next movie that's coming out, is it got diminishing returns. So I think that is the next wave of promo. I think with the more they get us, the fandom, involved, or at least give us a sense that we have a say or that we're being heard, the more buy-in they're going to get. And we dig up stuff. That's our thing. We love showing up at the party talking about, oh, I got something y'all ain't even ready for. And it'd be something you can bring up on your phone. You see this movie coming out here? It's going to be in 2 theaters. There's one in L.A. and one in New York. I'm going to the one in New York. You coming with me? That's how we do, right? So why not take advantage of that, right?
Yeah.
This is a designer and animator right here on my end here, Matt. The promo that you do, the promo stuff you design, right? You know, you're the stuff you do for BlurredCon, the stuff that you do for individual brands, your photography work.
Right.
Are you seeing more community-based promo coming to your desk and desks of other people like you who do design?
I could say yeah. Yeah, like I see a lot more. I feel like there's been a huge change, especially with COVID. It really pushed a lot more people towards media, whereas people like in a lot of these spaces, it used to be based on like, you know, being together and actually being in the room. But now since everything's virtual, it's been pushed to where everything is like more virtual, especially when companies, like for instance, like when they have like those big buildings and you have all these employees and stuff in there, they were like, oh, well, if we can have you work from home, you know, and we can host all these, you know, virtual rooms and stuff, you know, it's cheaper for us because we don't have to pay the rent, but then we can also make a lot more money because it's lucrative by still having you still be able to do the same work, but it's virtual and from home and you're remote. So like so to answer your question, the virtual space in art, as far as advertisement, has really been pushed a lot more, especially since after COVID.
Yeah.
And I can definitely attest to that because I've been working around the clock. So
I won't let other folks have their. Who did your work? None of your business.
So, my nickname's Slave. I mean.
Wow.
He's not a slave. Slave to the art form.
Yeah.
Slave to the community.
No comment. No comment.
Huge push. So.
But no, I think that we are now empowered in a way that we weren't before, and it is changing the way we look at our media. It's changing the way we interact. You know, like I said, everybody's a brand now. I remember when Facebook first came out, the goal of your Facebook account was to get as many friends as possible, because then you'd have more people to talk to and hang out with. And now there's this algorithm that decides who you see and whose post you interact with.
Yeah, they worked out real well.
You know, and I mean, it's working great for Facebook. It's not necessarily working great for the community. I mean, I would like to go back to the whole.
I was oozing sarcasm.
Remember when you would follow a group? you would join a group because you wanted to see what was happening in the group.
Right.
And now you join a group and you never see that ever again. Like what? That's where we are when we are outside of our own self-built communities, right? You know, the fact that you have a channel, a set of channels that people can come and communicate directly with you, you know, during certain times when you're going live and, you know, in the media in which your recorded material is, you don't need the algorithm. Not for that interaction.
No.
So if a brand were to come to you and say, hey, we've got a new card game we want to bring out, and we have a choice. We either spend $20,000 on a bunch of ads, they're going to go out on Channel 9, or we could go through you and a series of you know, creators who live and breathe in this space to talk it up, do demos and all that sort of stuff. I think the real promo would be with you.
Well, in that instance,
he's doing that old man voice, catching up with you, getting all that stuff in your neck, being the voice characterization.
I don't care about your feelings right now. And in that case, I could see them doing that, but I would also look at what their underlying mission is, because though we may have the reach, we've built that reach on honesty and respect, and most importantly, just being straightforward with it. And if they have a product, if I have tried this product and I believe in it, then I'll definitely push that narrative. So I'm not going to rely on the algorithm. I'm going to say, hey, I like this. I think it's great. You guys can check it out if you want. I'm not going to become a commercial just because they want me to. They can throw all kinds of money at me all they like. If I don't believe in it, just like the movie. If I don't believe in the movie, I'm not going to recommend it. I'm not even going to watch the whole entire movie, because I'll feel like this is all I am. I was just a means to their end. So I would rather make it an honest attempt, or at least an honest effort to say, hey, this is something that I would be behind, and I say go for it. But being a part of the populace that are usually the test dummies for just about anything for the corporate knuckleheads up there anyway.
But you know what's crazy? Like, I could say this, like, the crazy thing about media is you have it where it's like, okay, I like it, right? And you get that side. But you can also have the side where it's so bad that everybody watches it that it gets popular and makes money too. So
that has happened.
Even though you're like, man, this is trash, you still went to go watch it and you still paid money.
Well,
and those views still rack up, you know.
But see, I think what we're talking about.
I did not go watch Green Lantern. Okay.
I think what we're talking about here is that
standards.
going through the community and going through the fandom has both a check and balance aspect of it. Because if I'm coming to you with a property or a product or something like that I want you to back, then there's going to be a quality control there, because your feedback is going to be, hey, I know you think your stuff is hot shit, but listen, I'm in the fandom. I do this, and I'm telling you, this ain't working, this ain't working, this ain't working. You need to change this, this, and this. Mm-hmm. That is something that should be built into every, quality control mechanism, where we say, hey, the people who we're going to ask to buy this product should have some pre-experience with it before we mint it and send it out.
Agreed.
Yeah. So for you, if somebody were to come out with a game or a movie about a game or anything along those lines, I would hope that they would come to you and say, hey, listen, you tell us what you think about this draft of the script or this idea that we're working on. If there's some tweaks, or is there something that disqualifies this as quality that you would be able to back and you think the community would be able to back?
Yeah.
You get an opportunity to then say,
in a perfect world with a balanced focus group for something like that, I could see that.
Yep.
But they don't.
Right.
They simply don't.
Because I totally agree.
I was going to say, so speaking, I've heard a lot about, integrating, who your audience is, and a lot of conversation around gearing towards children. And then we have a panel where, the age diversity is there. Do you think that ageism is playing a role in how these films are even being considered or marketed, and the seriousness in which they take the fandom?
Ooh. Yeah.
I think so.
Well, I can definitely tell you, they sat down at the table and was like, what demographic are we going to hit? And I can tell you it's not. Yeah.
They should have. So.
Yeah. Well, the way they look at it is, and I can say this from an animator standpoint, like when I sat in the room, I used to work for Nickelodeon. I worked on the Miraculous Ladybug, if anybody knows it. So like you literally sit at the table and they go, okay, the demographic is going to be children, right? But the reason why they point it towards kids is because who has the money? The parents of the children. So they go, okay, either way, I'm still going to make money. So if I push it towards kids go, Mommy, Daddy, I want this, then the parents spend the money. So the parents by default are a part of it. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's just something to think about, like when they're sitting at the table wondering like how we're going to pitch this. Yeah, it's coming at different angles. And then the other thing is too, like when it comes to like I agreed with your opinion, like when you were saying like, people being a part of the fandom, being able to include their opinions and stuff like that. A lot of those companies are like, yeah, that's nice, but as long as it's making money, we can go without the certain opinions and as long as it's making money. So even if it's bad and I'm still getting the same amount of views, they're just like, okay.
Yeah.
But we're the lovers, so we're different.
Right.
Yeah.
So the question is, does ageism play a role in focusing the product on a specific demographic? So,
and I think that it does. I think that there is a view to a certain degree that the nerd fandom is all 19 and under. And it varies from fandom to fandom. I think that the RPG world is aged a little bit higher. But when it comes to things like comic books, anime, manga, they think everybody's 12. And you feel that in the way they market, and you see it demonstrated in a lot of the way the fandom manifests in its open spaces like cons and stuff like that. But, I do think that there is a challenge here, because ageism in the community is an issue that we wrestle with, right? And, who's spending the money for movies and Happy Meals and stuff like that is absolutely dictated by the kids screaming in the back of the car. We know that, right? However,
Unless
I
you're in the
think
drive-in.
that
But
the
who
long money,
makes it?
the long money does go to the adults, and I think you can see that where, for instance, you don't see a fandom attachment to a fandom film, right? So when the Lord of the Rings original trilogy came out, you didn't see any homage to the D&D community. There was no outreach. This was going as far and wide and as general. They was trying to get that Harry Potter money. They're like, okay, the people who read the book, some of the people are like 90. Like, I mean, this book is ancient, right? So there's like a whole world of people who have never seen this represented on the screen. And so the movie took on a maturity that I think has lasted and has given it longevity, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know that we see that with the Dungeons and Dragons movies up to this point, because you see those Lord of the Rings elements because it's based on the Tolkien, fandom to begin with, but it's kind of treated in this slapstick. Okay, there's got to be something exploding, and there's got to be some slapstick joke or somebody getting thrown. A little bit of that.
There has to be some crashing and destruction.
Yeah, it's got to be a lot of movement, a lot of
bad
noise,
jokes and everything like that.
Yeah, we watch Lord of the Rings, and we watch the Hobbit movies because they're beautiful, and there's scenery and there's subtlety, and if you get the extended DVD, which is now 4 hours, 4-hour movie versus the 3. Right, you can continue as an adult to immerse yourself in that world, and it's not for kids. Like I said, I got a 19-year-old nephew who's never seen any of those movies, but he loves Dungeons and Dragons, which blows my mind, right? But he doesn't have the patience to sit down for 3 hours and watch this movie, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that for a movie like that, you say, okay, who is going to come and sit in a 3-hour movie and watch? You're looking at the older demographic. You look at Avatar. What is it? The World of Water. Yeah. That is for people who were watching this movie in 3D 10 years ago, which aren't 19-year-olds, which aren't 15-year-olds who don't get it. They didn't see it in the theater. They don't know the 3D amazement that is going to happen on the screen. So there's a balance to be had. I
love it for the art.
Real quick, so like when we're talking about, I'm an old school Star Trek person. So when we're talking about something that is fandom driven versus studio driven. Mm-hmm. You look at Star Trek, and they are utilizing social media. They have astrophysicists working for them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
NASA scientists working for them. Mm-hmm. You look at Star Wars. They have community members of the 501st region, who we see at every con, working on their movie.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. They are laying the groundwork of not only including members of these communities in their products, but they're also doing really good job of advertising that they're doing that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Star Trek made a post the other day with literally an astrophysicist, not a writer, not a producer, not an actor, an astrophysicist on the Star Trek Instagram feed. Mm-hmm. Again, 501st, you got 501st members everywhere being like, oh yeah, I was in the movie. What?
Yep.
Yeah.
What do we come out of The Witcher with? We come out of The Witcher with Henry Cavill is one of the biggest Witcher fans on the entire planet. Mm-hmm. Okay? He's on the set trying to tell the writers and the producers and directors what to do. Mm. Then you think about The Rock, and you think, oh, The Rock says he's been a fan of Black Adam since he was a kid. Okay, but what else? And I think that's one of the reasons why Black Adam I liked it, but it kind of failed because it's just like, Henry, and I don't want to pit them against each other, but Henry put in the work of being like this uber fan, and then he made himself so excited about The Witcher, everybody else got excited. But then The Rock, felt like it was very like internal and very personal. Like, oh, I have been wanting to play Black Adam, my entire life. Okay, well, do you want to tell us about him? Like, why?
He's made it almost a selfish venture.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love The Rock, but it's just kind of like he didn't bring us in the way that he could have.
The question.
I want to play him. Okay. What else about there's no stories about him on set being like.
I see where
it
she's
needs
going.
To be like this.
Yeah.
And you
I get it.
You want to have that passion from from these people. I read the Magician's books, but I read them several years after the fact. I heard from people who read the books, they're like, the TV show is trash. I didn't watch it. Because it's just like those people are really entrenched into it.
Yeah.
So now it's just one person streaming, and it's just kind of like the studios really need to pander to the fans first.
Yeah.
I really think so. I think that they win every time they pander to the fans.
No,
To repeat the question for the camera, it really is about the question is, you know, the studios, the stars, the homage to the fandom being overtly demonstrated in Star Trek, overtly demonstrated in Star Wars, where you see so many of these community-based fan clusters participating and being spoken directly to, who then carry the water for the property to their neighbors and their friends and their family and get them excited. And it's that kind of a down, you know, a downstream for it. And I agree 110%. I think it's really cool how NASA has co-branded with Star Trek. Like every other announcement that you see from NASA has some Star Trek, like an astronaut, you know, is like, oh, I've been watching Star Trek my whole life, and they put that out there, you know, that co-branding of what our spacefaring reality is with our aspirational spacefaring fantasy is, you know, being seen hand in hand, right? And everybody's feeding off of each other, right? So I agree 110%. The question for me is, you know, for a star like The Rock, you know, I like the movie too. I did not dislike Black Adam.
I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. It was a popcorn movie. As a comic book fan, I was disappointed. I was watching The Rock in a Black Adam costume, run around being The Rock. I think the reason why it didn't do what it was supposed to do is because The Rock's brand is that no matter who he plays,
he's still a wrestler.
He has to be liked at the end. He can't be the villain, right? He can't come out, you know, being the Black Adam that we know from the comics,
I was hoping,
who would wake up and go, well, I'll get back to destroying the world. Because you guys do not deserve to breathe the same air as the world I will create.
In the movie, I'm sorry. I wanted
Really?
to see him do
Why?
it. I wanted to see him do a wrestling move.
Oh my God!
See, you're what's wrong.
The entire time.
You're the one I would
couldn't
leave in
help
the
it.
This is why
lobby, okay?
DC is turned upside down in a blender right now, because there's a guy like you in the movie.
You telling me it wouldn't
in
been
the
awesome if he
boardroom.
rock bottomed
The-
somebody on
The irony with
that
the
would have
Dungeons
been
and
amazing.
Dragons movie is that I did check the cast, and out of the entire cast, there are 3 people who play Dungeons and Dragons. Out of the entire cast.
Oh man.
So how can you make it relatable and you want to appeal to an audience when you don't even believe that the actors themselves who are portraying these characters even know what the game is, let alone play it?
Yeah.
Make me a believer. That's why Stranger Things was believable, because they played Dungeons and Dragons in real life.
I don't know if it's a requirement that the actors.
Helps.
It helps, but I think if it comes from the top, you know, actors are actors for a reason. Like, they don't have to, you know, be fans of everything that they do in order to be successful on the screen portraying it. So I'll give them that. I agree also that it does help if there are more actual fans of a property on set, because it definitely, you can feel it and it does improve the final product. But I do think you can get away with not having a cast full of fans of a particular property if the writing and the producing and, you know, the plot and everything is approached correctly.
Agreed.
To bring about a product that, you know, would objectively be a good movie. And I don't know that they do it. And it has to be passion.
Yeah.
It can't be seen as a giant
Still
Hasbro, you know, product placement like the Transformers properties are in danger of becoming. Now they have a fandom that people are going to go see the movie no matter what.
So I can't say this though. Like you usually see like for instance, like we watched these trailers, right? And you saw how the quality of art improved, right? I mean, of course, it's like with the new technology and stuff like that. But I always see, and this is maybe just me, in movies, it seems like the creatives tend to do what they need to do, but it's like the people who aren't really passionate about it and more about the business side tend to kill it. You see what I mean? So it's like, you know, the people that are about the art, they always do their job, but the people that are like more of the, we need to see the numbers and the figures, and they kill it. HR kills it every time.
Again, we circle back to Black Adam, and I think that in the boardroom, somebody said, "Well, what makes Black Adam Black Adam?" Well, he kills people, and I think that was where that's the only underline they got, the only takeaway from it, and it made it into the movie. My thing was, well, Wonder Woman kills people too, and she is notorious. She probably killed more people than Black Adam as a character, right? So, you know, why is that the only thing about him that makes him Black Adam? Why is he not Shazam, right? What is the difference between the two? That should be the movie. And I was hoping to get that. I didn't get it. And it's why the movie was like a 7.5 versus the 9.5 it could have been. Right?
All right.
Anyway, we have to wrap it up. I really appreciate you guys coming out. I know this is day 0. So many people are just checking into their rooms, haven't hydrated yet. You've got long drives that you just finished. We appreciate you guys coming in, and
Thank y'all
we
for
had a
hanging out
great
with us.
time
Yeah,
hanging
definitely.
out. We got another panel tomorrow on community building in the game space, and we'll be in panel room 7. Look for that. That's going to be really, really cool. It's going to have a couple of these familiar faces on board, and my man Javon Goard, who has done extensive work on game development and game writing.
Please rate this panel in Guidebook if you guys want us to come back next
Yes,
year.
yes.
Please.
Bitch sessions
Please,
rule.
I like it
Let
here.
us
Please,
all
I like it
complain together as a community. I love it. I love you guys. And we have a booth. The BlurredCon booth is out here in the atrium right around the corner. Come hang out with us. We got a big video screen. You can't miss us. That's where we'll be. Happy day 1, MAGFest. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.